Trump called Canada nasty. Carney didn't answer with another insult. He answered with jobs, exports, aluminum, and a warning that Washington's pressure may be creating costs on both sides of the border. Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. With Canadian trade and employment numbers showing surprising resilience, aluminum flows shifting toward Europe, and Ottawa reportedly weighing major concessions before August 19th, this dispute is entering its most dangerous phase yet. The question now is who actually has leverage, and who blinks first. Here are 5 developments revealing how the Canada-US showdown is changing before the August 19th deadline. Number 5. Trump attacks Canada. Carney answers with economic leverage. Trump escalated tensions on August 5th by describing Canada as nasty and criticizing what he called its nasty leadership, although he also emphasized his affection for Canadians themselves. Carney responded the next day from Saguenay, Quebec, but avoided firing back personally. Instead, he focused on Canadian workers, investment, and Ottawa's push for a broader trade agreement. That matters because the real pressure is mechanical, not verbal. Existing U.S. tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and vehicles can ripple through stamping plants, parts suppliers, and final assembly, increasing costs long before a vehicle reaches a showroom. Carney's argument is straightforward. Canada may be able to absorb enough pressure to make Washington feel the economic blowback too. But rhetoric only goes so far. To see whether Carney actually has room to resist, we need to look under the hood at Canada's latest economic numbers. Number 4. Canada defies tariff pressure. Economic numbers surprise Washington. Fresh data gave Carney more horsepower for his argument. Canada posted a June merchandise trade surplus of roughly 3.86 billion Canadian dollars, its strongest in 4 years, as exports climbed to another record. The United States still absorbed about 69.5% of Canadian exports, underscoring how tightly connected both economies remain. Then, July employment rose by 75,000 jobs, while unemployment eased to 6.4%. By contrast, U.S. payroll employment declined by 23,000 jobs, although America's 4.1% unemployment rate remained considerably lower. Previous U.S. payroll gains were also revised downward. The key takeaway is leverage. Canada is under pressure, but these numbers suggest Ottawa still has enough economic traction to negotiate rather than immediately yield. And those headline numbers are only part of the story. One critical automotive material shows exactly how Washington's tariff pressure may be producing unintended consequences. Number 3. Aluminum tariffs backfire. Canada redirects metal toward Europe. Aluminum shows how tariffs can ricochet through an automotive supply chain. Carney says U.S. aluminum prices have risen roughly 58% since tariffs hit primary metal, while the Midwest premium has reached record territory. For automakers, that means higher costs for everything from hoods and wheels to suspension parts and EV battery enclosures. Meanwhile, Canada's share of U.S. primary aluminum imports fell from roughly 75% in early 2024 to about 54% in early 2026 as Canadian shipments toward Europe increased. Canada cannot simply abandon American buyers, but Washington faces a clear risk. Make Canadian aluminum less competitive, and producers gain more incentive to develop alternative markets. But finding different aluminum buyers is only one piece of Canada's response. The bigger play may be building an industry that becomes harder for global automakers to ignore. Before we get into our top 2 developments, if you're enjoying this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe to Piston Pundit. It helps us reach more automotive enthusiasts who want to understand not just what is happening in the industry, but why it matters. Now the countdown gets even more interesting. Number 2. Canada builds an escape route. New markets gain momentum. Carney's broader strategy extends beyond surviving one tariff battle. Canada is investing in industries that could strengthen its long-term bargaining position. Elysis, backed by Rio Tinto, is developing inert anode smelting technology that eliminates direct greenhouse gas emissions from conventional aluminum production. A commercial-size 450 kiloampere cell began operating in 2025, while another demonstration facility targets production in 2027. For automakers seeking lightweight, lower-carbon materials, that technology could become valuable. Meanwhile, Canadian exports to non-US markets rose 17.2% in 2025 as exports to America declined. The US remains irreplaceable in the near term, but every additional customer gives Ottawa slightly more negotiating room when Washington applies pressure. Yet diversification cannot erase geography overnight, and now Canada may have to decide exactly how much of that new leverage it is willing to trade away to secure a deal with Washington. Number 1, August 19th Showdown. Canada weighs major US concessions. Canadian negotiators met US Trade Representative Jameson Greer on August 6th, and reports the following day revealed potentially significant concessions under discussion. Most important for the automotive industry, Ottawa is reportedly considering removing tariffs on US-made automobiles, alongside possible accommodations involving dairy quotas and American alcohol. In return, Washington could ease some tariffs affecting Canadian steel and aluminum. Nothing has been finalized, making these bargaining positions not an announced deal. Meanwhile, Trump's separate Section 338 measures are scheduled for August 19th. That leaves both governments approaching a critical junction. Canada is publicly emphasizing resilience while privately determining whether automotive concessions could purchase the metals relief its industrial sector wants. And that brings this entire countdown back to the question we started with. Does Canada now have enough leverage to force a compromise? Or will August 19th expose the limits of its strategy? Verdict: Canada gains leverage. August 19th becomes the real test. Trump's rhetoric generated the headlines, but economics will determine who actually gains ground. Canada has posted stronger recent employment and trade figures, redirected some aluminum toward Europe, and invested in next-generation smelting technology. Yet the American market remains enormously important, which explains why Ottawa may be considering concessions on vehicles, dairy, and alcohol. This is not a clear victory for either side. Washington controls access to a massive consumer market, while Canada supplies strategic materials and industrial capacity American manufacturers still depend upon. The crucial distinction is between having leverage and actually converting that leverage into a favorable agreement. Canada has demonstrated that tariffs can produce costs and unintended consequences on both sides of the border. But Ottawa may now have to determine which concessions are acceptable, and which would give away too much of the bargaining power it has spent months trying to build. So, what happens next? Do you think Canada should remove tariffs on US-made vehicles? Can trade diversification genuinely reduce Canada's dependence on America? And will August 19th bring compromise, or another escalation in the Canada-US trade fight? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We love hearing from you. For the latest vehicle updates, automotive industry developments, and more in-depth analysis, subscribe to Piston Pundit and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.